Hey, we're here to talk about NBA free agency. This is Ben Hull, and I'm with,
Aaron Simpson.
and we just want to update y'all on some key moves in the off season and some winners and losers and what's going on in the NBA right now currently.
First, we're going to start off here with free agent moves. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves are a quiet team. They made some moves with Jeff Teague and, of course, that big draft night trade with Jimmy Butler and the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, that really surprised me. I never saw Jimmy Butler going there. I don't know why Chicago did that. But where do you see the Timberwolves going now? How far do you think they can go in the playoffs? And do you think they can make the playoffs first off?
I think with the other moves that have gone on in the West, with you got the
It's a
Utah.
stacked
It's
West.
a stacked West now, but you have Utah. They lost Gordon Hayward and George Hill.
Knock them out.
Not that I think knocks them out of the playoffs. They were a 4 or 5 seed, I think, last year. I think they completely knocks them out. You got the Clippers. They're definitely going to drop down a couple of tiers with only having Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. What are the Pelicans going to do? I mean, I think there are some
I
teams.
think the Pelicans could be better.
The Pelicans can definitely be better because Drew
Team
Holiday.
chemistry can be up.
Team chemistry is going to be up, and Drew Holiday is going to have a full season now under his belt. He had the situation with his wife, her being sick at the beginning of the season, so his mind was probably on that when it could have been on basketball. He got a big contract, so he's going to have to prove himself. But the Timberwolves, I think, can definitely make a run because they have the young nucleus of
Karl-Anthony Towns.
of Cat Towns and Andrew Wiggins, and now you add Jimmy Butler, Jeff Teague, two veterans who have been to the playoffs. Jimmy Butler was the guy in Chicago, so now let's see.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be the guy in Minnesota probably. I mean, there's going to be, but how's that going to transition going to?
Yeah, we'll see how their shooting goes throughout the season too. They don't seem to have too many shooters, but they seem to have a pretty good big four going on with them.
I agree.
All right, let's move on to the Celtics and Gordon Hayward. You think they're going to win the East? Well, last year they won the East. They were one seed in the playoffs, but they
Right.
couldn't win. So with Gordon Hayward, do you think they're going to be the best team in the East this year?
I think they'll do what they did last year. I think they'll win the East regular season title because LeBron's going to take his 5-10 games off. And I think those 5-10 games, you got Isaiah Thomas, you got Al Horford, you got Gordon Hayward. I think this team can win 60 games, but are they going to be like the Hawks who won 60 games a few seasons ago? And then they made it to the conference finals, but they got absolutely destroyed by LeBron and the Cavs. So, but you lose Avery Bradley, who was your second guy.
Yeah, you lose Olynyk.
You lose Olynyk, who was that enforcer down low. So what you now have to think about is who's that two going to be. Now, Jason Tatum, he's a guy who can.
He's been doing really well in the
really well in the
league.
summer league. So what I could see them doing later in the year is putting Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum maybe at that 3, sliding Gordon Hayward down to the 2, go with a big lineup.
Yeah,
because when you
give those young guys some more playing time as they get better and better.
Exactly, and Gordon Hayward, of course, knows how to play under Brad Stevens. Knows what Brad Stevens is about. Those guys, I think, teaming up now, they want to win a title. They, of course, were so close in
Butler.
2010 with Butler beating Duke. They're so close to them beating Duke, and winning the national championship that year. So I think they can make it to these conference finals again. But as long as LeBron is in the East, and as long as he has Kyrie and Kevin Love, I just do not see a team. I see them maybe challenging them more, maybe going 6 this year instead of a 5. But Isaiah Thomas, I think he's not a good defender at all. He is. I mean, he got one All NBA team vote, and whoever that voter is, his vote needs to be rescinded. He is not a good defender. He gets destroyed on the pick and rolls, and Kyrie Irving, I think, will pick him apart again if the two do meet up in the playoffs. And I see this Cavs will come out of the East, and I see us having 4 straight times it being the Cavs against the Warriors.
Okay, that would be LeBron's ninth straight time in the
I think
finals.
It's 8th straight time, but 8th.
8th or 9th.
I mean,
One of the two.
one of the
Either
two,
way,
yeah.
it's really impressive. Okay, what do you think of these young Kings picking up veteran players like from the Grizzlies, Zach Randolph, Vince Carter? What do you think about that?
And don't forget George Hill, veteran point guard. See, what the Kings have, I think, is they're trying to. They have going into this offseason, they had type of a deal that the Timberwolves had. Young nucleus. There's Buddy Hield, Scal, Lavisier, and Willie Cauley-Stein, and now you add De'Aaron Fox and Harry Giles, two guys who were great players in college from the draft. So I think they're trying to speed track it. I think what Zebo can do is he can definitely teach those young bigs, the Harry Giles, Scal, and Cauley-Stein. And then you have Vince. So I think Vince is going to do what he always does. He's going to be a bench guy. Is what he did with the Grizzlies. He's going to be a guy that comes off the bench. Really doesn't matter about his role. Now, they do reunite with Dave Yeager, who they both enjoyed playing under. So you have to think, they may be able to challenge for a late season playoff push, but I think the East is too congested, and their division is too congested, because in the division you have the Warriors, you have the Clippers, who I think can still make the playoffs, even though they traded away Chris Paul. And then
you mean the West?
Yeah, the West. And then you have the Lakers, who will be more competitive this year, I think, with Brandon Ingram having one season under his belt. They get rid of the D'Angelo Russell, Nick Young. Both of them are away now, so you get rid of that little soap opera there. And you definitely have Lonzo Ball.
You had Lonzo Ball, who is apparently leading them to the playoffs this year.
According to his dad.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the Kings could be something to deal with. Do you think they'll make the playoffs?
I think, as I said, they can make a late push.
The West is really good this year.
The West is stacked. And, let's just go down the teams right now who we know are probably locked, barring an injury, of course. The Warriors, I think, would take catastrophic injuries to all four of those guys and not to make the playoffs, because they do have a good bench. The Spurs, the Rockets, of course. The Thunder, I see, is that fourth seed now, because adding Paul George. And think about it, they can have Paul George and Russell Westbrook. I'm talking about them being the fourth seed. Those are two of the top 15, 20 players in the league on the same team, but they're probably going to be the fourth seed. Then you have the second tier guys. That's where the Grizzlies may be able to sneak in, where the Kings may be able to sneak in, but 5 through 8, you're gonna have the Clippers probably gonna making it again. You have the Trailblazers, who I think that's a team that people have forgotten about.
Trailblazers, they're pretty good. They got young talent. Damian Lillard's a stud.
CJ
McCollum can score out of the frame. Don't forget about the Timberwolves.
Now, the Timberwolves.
They're probably going to be up.
The Timberwolves
in the top.
The Timberwolves can definitely be in the top 5 or 6, but
I'd give them a 6. I'd give them a 6 seed just because they're still somewhat young.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of playoff experience deep in the playoffs. They've been first, second round. A couple of those guys have been, but nobody really that I can think of besides maybe Taj Gibson or somebody like that.
Teague was on that. I think was on that Atlanta team that went to the conference finals, but again they got swept.
So really no successful playoff players. So let's talk about a major loser for this free agency period in Utah. What do you think? Do they even have a chance this season, or should they just rebuild again? Because they were still they were in the rebuilding process, and it just got taken away from them basically.
See, they have a good young coach, in Quinn Snyder, but when your only true addition really is Ricky Rubio. Nothing against Ricky Rubio, but you lose your top 2 scorers. You do regain Joe Ingles, who's gonna have to, I think, be the guy now, because you lose Gordon Hayward, you lose George Hill. Those are 2 guys who were your go-to guys late in the games. Now, Joe Johnson, don't know his whole contract situation just yet, but I think the really only Ingles you can count on, and then Gobert you can count on to get you some boards and some blocks.
But like other than that, they're going to be scrappy. They're going to have to be really scrappy to make it anywhere.
I think they're going to be in the rebuilding process. I think this was a big summer for them, and I think their future, I think, was weighted on were they going to be Gordon Hayward back. And the whole time, I never thought they would be able to resign Hayward. I always thought he would leave. Now the destination was where he would go. Would he go to Miami? Would he go to Boston? Because I think he sat back a little bit and watched everything else go down. He saw on draft night the Jimmy Butler trade. He saw the Paul George trade. He was like, okay, and I think that's when people knew he was going to the East, because the East became completely wide open and became a 2-team race now.
Yeah. I can agree with that. I think the Utah is going to be rebuilding for at least probably 4 more years at least, I would say. What do you think about our home team, the Grizzlies? They're free agents. They're losing a couple guys.
Yeah.
They're draft picks. They got a couple of decent
second round draft picks. Yeah.
That they had to trade to get those draft picks, but or send money, but
right. And see, the draft night was a win because you went going tonight no draft picks. You end up with 2 trading some future picks and whatnot. But the thing is, I think we're gonna have to start counting on those guys because you lose a Zebo, you're probably gonna lose Tony Allen, JaMychal Green. Evidently, you're not offering him enough money, but so you don't know what his whole situation is. It's a bad situation over there with that, but you still
hope to re-sign him.
Hope to re-sign him because if you don't re-sign him, then you got to look at who your power forwards. You got Jarrell Martin, who has not really amounted to anything. The first round draft pick 2 years ago in 2016 out of LSU, he's not really amounted to anything so far. And then you got this year's second round draft pick and Ivan Rapp as your only 2 power forwards on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have this Rad Zavanovic, the European player coming over, but he looks more like a 3. But he can maybe go small a little bit. I mean, we saw with the Warriors, but not comparing those to the Warriors. But you do have Conley still there. Now, Marc Gasol, his name has been brought up in some trade rumors, trying to get him to the Celtics. But I think those were kind of washed away with the Celtics signing Gordon Hayward because they would have to have they would have to dump a ton of money for Marc Gasol. And then what they had to think about next summer is Isaiah Thomas. He's come out and said he's a max player. He got in the back of the Brinks truck in order to pay him. So I think Marc Gasol's not going to go anywhere at least this year. So I think the Grizzlies, they play the year out. They see what they are at the end of the season. And you got to think about that. You're going to have Marc Gasol, who's going to be 30, nearing his mid-30s, Conley the same way. And you're paying those guys a lot of money. If Chandler Parsons can be somewhat
that's who we
successful.
need. Chandler Parsons needs to have a healthy year.
If he can just play. Now I'm not talking to be the Chandler Parsons of old where he was averaging, up in the high teens.
If he could just average 10 and 3 and 3 or something,
I think
just contribite to the team and be on the team and play.
Be on the
not
floor.
Be a waste of cap space like he was this year.
Because I think this is a big year for him. And the thing is, if he goes out and has a big year, but you still want to dump him, he adds some trade value to a team that maybe has the cap room.
Okay, so the Grizzlies really need a power forward, but they did add McLemore and shoot. He's a decent shooter.
Yeah. The Grizzlies. I think I saw a tweet. Someone said, they're trying to get into the shooter realm of the game. And so I think they're trying to throw money at every shooter they can until one hits.
Yeah.
McLemore, he has not had the career people expected from him coming out of Kansas. Now they did also sign. They re-signed Wayne Selden, who looked really good yesterday in their summer league opener. They did sign Tyreek Evans, kind of a reunion for him coming back to Memphis where he played his 1 year of college ball. So, they added some veteran type guys, but no guys who I think that they can really lean on as they did in the past with Tony Allen, because you knew Tony Allen was going to bring it every night that he played with the defense. So I think it's going to. I think it's a rebuilding year for the Grizzlies. Now they still, because the West is so top heavy, they still could slip into the playoffs as a 7 or 8 like they have the past 2 years.
Yeah, play the Spurs like they do every year.
But I think, it's to be determined. I think the Grizzlies may end up being sellers at noon, the trade deadline. You'll see teams that have the cap space and have young talent. And I think the Grizzlies will end up being sellers. I don't think they have a first-round draft pick next year because they traded some of them away. And so I think if you know that you're not going to be any good, which you have a good feeling about that at the trade deadline, and you're sitting there out of the playoff picture, or basically out of the playoff picture already, then I think you become sellers. I think you can trade Marc Gasol, which it's tough for me to say, but you can't.
We really need to get
You
younger.
got to get younger, and you're not going to do that with keeping these guys. So I mean, but you look at him and like hit that contract. Where's some landing spots for him? But I think that's to be determined. But I do see the Grizzlies having a tough year. I think David Fizdale, this is going to be his toughest year yet. Of course, it's only his second year, but I think it's going to be tougher than last season, even though last season was his first year, because he had veterans in that locker room. This year, he's not going to have those veterans.
Okay. Do you want to talk about LeBron being the Cavs? Do you think he'll stay? Do you want to talk about that?
I think with LeBron, I think it is a tough situation there because David Griffin was the only general manager that he really seemed to be okay with, besides with his time in Cleveland, both stints. But you got to think that them firing him does not look good because LeBron can opt out.
There are rumors him going to the Lakers.
Him going to the Lakers. Now I think those rumors are kind of ill will because
dreams, really.
Dreams, really, because I mean the Lakers, they do have a lot of cap space. They do have a lot of young talent, as we said. Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball. So think about. They want to go out to Paul George. Paul George has said that he's going to sign with the Lakers next offseason. Now, we'll see how much a year in OKC with Russell Westbrook changes that. If I'm Paul George, I mean, you're not really going to get any better. Unless you can get with the Warriors, which they're never going to have the cap space for you to be with there. I mean, you can't go to the Celtics now because they got a small forward there in Gordon Hayward. So I think Lakers is a pipe dream, but I remember hearing a story about when Jimmy Butler's name started coming up in trade rumors. The ideal spot a lot of people thought was going to be Cleveland. People were texting him off of Cleveland saying, "You come here, come here, come here." When they fired David Griffin, those same guys were texting him, "Don't come here. It's a wreck. It's a train wreck." So it's definitely animosity, I think, in the lineup. And I do see LeBron leaving. I don't know where he will go. So I think the Cleveland fans need to get ready to burn some more jerseys in next offseason because I don't know where he'll go, but I do see LeBron James taking his talent somewhere else.
And then I think the last thing that we want to talk about today is the 76ers and the possibilities for this season with their young talent. Joel Embiid, of course.
Ben Simmons, his rookie year.
Now coming after the injury. And then Markelle Fultz just being drafted at number 1. They have some really good young talent pieces. Do you think? I think that they'll develop pretty well into a contender in the playoffs. I don't know that they'll necessarily make it this year, but they'll be good. They added J.J. Redick.
He's a shooter, a guy who's
good shooter.
He's hasn't won anything, but he's been there in the playoffs. I think they'll make the playoffs actually because a lot of that reason is because the East sucks basically. The East is top heavy, and by top heavy I mean they have two teams who are real contenders, and those are the Cavaliers and the Celtics. Now, the Heat are going to rely on a 34-year-old Dwayne Wade to get them there. I mean not the Heat, the Bulls. Excuse me. The Heat could definitely, I think, make the playoffs again. I mean, that was a team who was probably by far, besides the Warriors, the best team in the second half of the season. Of course, starting 11-30 and ending 30-11, nearly making the playoffs with that tail-over start. But I do just see them making the playoffs because the Bulls, again, we're going to rely on Dwayne Wade. The Pacers are a train wreck. They have no real talent there now. And then you have the Hornets who I mean they made the playoffs a couple years ago. They have some young talent there with Kemba Walker. You have the Wizards, of course. I think they're going to be able to retain Otto Porter.
Yeah.
So and the Pistons but that Pistons again a young team was in the playoff hunt until late last year. So I mean the 7. I think you have 3 teams who going in 2 teams really. 4 teams going into the season that are going to make the playoffs, and that is the Raptors, the Pacers, or not the Pacers, the Raptors, the Wizards, the Celtics, and the Cavs. Now, who the other 4 teams I think is up in the air. You have the 76ers, you have the Heat, and you have basically a bunch of other teams. So I think can contend for those 4 spots. So it's a chance to be a tight season. The West is going to be boring again, I think. The Warriors are going to win 65 games. The Spurs are going to win 50+ like they always do. And I think it's going to be a tough year for most fans of the East and the West, but I do see it being an exciting NBA season.
Yep. And the Spurs just keep on cruising.
Keep on cruising to those division titles. I do think they'll be challenged, though, because you do have the Rockets and you have Chris Paul, you have James Harden, but I
think that I don't know that the Rockets got better.
I think they did, but see, what's going to be an issue is that one of the reasons I did not agree with that trade was James Harden was so good last year playing point.
He plays point. Why would they? Why would they trade to get a point guard?
I mean, Chris Paul. I don't know, but
because
they did. So.
I don't. We'll see how that works out. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Ben.
And I'm Aaron.
And we'll
see you next time.
Yep. See you next time.